Hello everyone, Lewis here one more time, bringing upfront creative content for CG artists. And this is the second episode of the Building a City series, made with Blender and Substance Painter. On this episode, I'll be focusing on the art direction and modeling of the medium to small buildings, and also the little insets and little packs that will add variation to the models in low poly fashion, such as antennas, outdoors, cranes, and things that will give life to the city in general. So, for those of you that didn't get the first episode, I'll be leaving a infographic here on the top right corner that you can check out the first episode, in which I discussed a little bit of the process behind creating the skyscrapers and also the main art direction behind it. So for the small and medium buildings, what I'm striving for here is the same look of the skyscrapers, but in more spatial divided orientation, in which I can have different variations in glasses, outdoors, and also facet views. I went for a more sci-fi look because this is inspired by the anime Evangelion, as I said in the last episode. And in this anime, they have a city called Tokyo Tree, and they have some really interesting bevels and chamfers on the buildings. I really like the overall construction look, that feeling that it transmits to the audience that the city is in constant adaptation and in constant reconstruction. So I'll probably be adding some cranes and different type of construction things on it as well to give that ambience. It's not exactly properly defined as cyberpunk, because cyberpunk, as I understand, is more like a neon 70s look. Ellie Jasmine says, "Great video, I'd love to see your texturing process." Well, thanks Ellie. The texturing process probably will be on episode 4. I will see how this thing goes and how quickly I can finish it. But in theory, I still need to set up the seams and UV unwrap these props here before we can texture it. And I will not be going to technical details in this because it's more focusing on the art direction. But I went to ArtStation and I took these reference pictures from the artist Soren Madding. You can check him out. I'll be leaving his ArtStation below. And he did some concept art for a game called Anno 2025. I think it's by Ubisoft. And I haven't played this game at all, but I took a look on the gameplay footage, and it was way below what the concept art intrigued. I really like games in which the concept art is really driven by the overall modeling of the props is really driven by the concept art. But in this concept art is really amazing because he focused a lot on the overall juiciness of the props. He added lots of mirrored and reflections on the glasses. And you can even see a little bit of the interior of the building if you stop to look at it. You have a little demarcation of the different floors throughout the glass. And I'll be making a shader to replicate that effect here in cycles. It's really good to mention that everything that you do in cycles or Eevee inside of Blender, they are not exactly transferable to a game engine such as Unity or Unreal. So cycles it's a thing of their own. Okay, so every shader you make on it will not translate to those engines. But for people interested in concept art and things like that, it's a really good tool. I think Blender Eevee, as is the tool I'm modeling here, it's amazing for such things. Key 3D says, awesome man, I will honestly pay for this if you put it on Gumroad. Yeah, as I'm thinking about that, let's see how the end result will go. I'm a big fan of your channel too, so thank you for stopping by. And yeah, glad you enjoyed. In overall, the buildings here, I also searched for this artist called Won Jun Tae, and he made a really good concept. I asked permission to showcase it here on the channel. He was totally fine with it, and I really love this reference, mostly because he took the base of a general building, a civilian building, with stores below it, and he quickly added variations. I think someone on the comments on the last video suggested to make them to be modular, right? And the modular approach is exactly that. You take something, small pieces, and you add them, being that solar panels, rooftops, antennas, refrigerators, things like that outside of the main shape of the building, and then you can create different variations within that same mesh. So yeah, he added vegetation on it, really cool as well. And I was really looking into these references and thinking about what I can come up with in similar ways in my own style. For making these 45-degree angles, I'm heavily relying on a tool in Blender called Shear. The Shear command is really cool because you can quickly skew your pieces in different axes. And this is a tool really good for making these precise angles on the buildings. Besides beveling and of course the more traditional modeling tools, which are insets, right? Making the balconies is basically insetted faces with a little bevel. And you can notice I'm leaving a little bit of the seam marks from the base blockouts on it, but those seam marks I'm not using really much as reference. I'll be taking a second look at them when the general shape is formed and going one by one, UV unwrapping each piece. This is the more grunt work, but it's a really needed work, you know. Someone recommended me use a tool called Reason UV. Reason UV, it's a dedicated software for UV mapping and texturing, right? I haven't took a look at it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it because I saw some of their demos, and in the demo files they showcase some really fast and interesting ways of UV unwrapping, which I found really good. I'm really looking forward to improving my UV unwrapping skills. However, I really like staying in one single package. Besides ZBrush in Blender now with the GoB add-on, the workflow between ZBrush and Blender is way fast. So sculpting became really good. The iteration besides the two applications are perfect now. And as far as Blender UV features, I'm not sure about exactly if Reason UV will separate my expectations regarding the overall features. I know that I have spent a little bit of my money in two add-ons, Text Tools is free for Blender, but I managed to buy one called Texel Density add-on. I'll be leaving the link to the video on the description below too for you that want to check out. That is a really good tool for automating your texel density between different assets. And also the UV Packmaster 2.0 version of the add-on. That's another good add-on for packing your UVs. So right now I'm kind of trying to establish a really good pipeline for UVs inside of Blender. But my primary goal is always, and really the ultimate goal here, is create beautiful art, beautiful buildings. And regardless of the technique you're using, that's the priority. Good stuff, dude. Can you show me how to UDing textures in 2.8? Well, I'm really not the best person to help you with that, because as far as I know, I don't think Blender yet supports UDings, totally supports UDings yet. Streamline. I know that Substance Painter is also another software that is looking into adopting a proper UDing workflow, right? And for those of you in the audience that don't know what UDing is, basically it's another type of unwrapping with more tiles. It's not exactly my specialty because I work mostly for games and webs. So on these industries, so far, the sectors regarding 3D modeling, we pretty much use the standard works. But I know that UDings are really popular on VFX works, you know. I think Flippin' Normals, the channel, has interesting videos on UDings if you want to check that out. But on this project specifically, we'll be using traditional UVs. We'll be using actually 3 materials, around 4 materials, each one for each tier of buildings. Skyscrapers, we'll have one, medium, we'll have one, and small size buildings also will have its own texture map. So it will be around 3 atlases. And with 3 atlases, you already get really good variation, even for baking your light maps after, if you're looking into baking a light map, of course. But there's also gonna be the extra modular pieces that we're gonna be adding on the buildings. And those ones I am doing right now, they'll be consistent of mostly solar panels, cranes, outdoors, 3 outdoors with different propagandas and ads on it, and also some really interesting balcony refrigerators, things that air can go up, get out of rooms, kitchens, things like that you usually see on terraces, rooftops, things like that. I'm also looking into building different vertical and more horizontal buildings like shopping centers, things that civilians can use, because in general term, the really high buildings are associated in the status quo of financial district buildings because of their scale and their use of glasses. But a really good asset pack also includes diversification and representation of different types of society, being that more streamlined buildings, poorer areas of the city, as on to medium class types of residential buildings that people can live in and have a little bit of more store departments below its surface. Toski Val said, which add-on are you using for the spy menu functions? Well, this is a couple of py menus I wrote for myself that kind of helps me going into quick orientation modes, such as Shift S for cursor to selected, things like that. So there's really nothing new about it, just like custom normal operators from Blender, but organized in a more straight up fashion, you know. Because right now in Blender, if you take a look to think about it, when you're modeling, you don't want to think about context in faces, edges, and selection. Your brain is thinking about outcome and what the tools want are used in their outcome. So the menus in Blender are divided by the type of selection you are in. Control E for edges, Control F I think was for faces, and like the bridge, edge loops, and more special comments were divided into these categories. So I thought about, well, why not making a add-on that instead of context sensitive functions, it's divided by their significant use. So I have a selection pie for everything regarding selection, mirror selections, side of active, things like that. And I also have a specials menu pie that are mostly all the comments I use often. And that is the shear command, inset, bridge edge loops, what else? Oh yeah, Control S, pivot for origin point for 3D cursor, you know, everything that is orientation related. And also a deletion pie with the distance, merge by distance also included. So far so good. The silhouette seems really fine by distance and also by really closer look into the buildings. They are reading fine. And the third level of detail, which is basically the first, the silhouette, in my case is mainly done. Texturing in Substance Painter later will be regarding the second to first level of details. The first level of details is like the small grandeurs, the tiny bolts of the windows, the window like side shelves, antennas. And the second level of detail will consist mainly on the different balconies and different types of glasses. So it's basically like the factor that adds differentiation into the buildings. And the normal maps on those ones will be totally made inside of Substance Painter. I won't be baking any high level information in this project. So that's it for the second episode, guys. I really wish you follow up with this series, and I'll be posting probably on this week or on the next week the third episode regarding a more in-depth look on the small buildings. Follow me on Twitter, and also check out my channel. I have other add-on reviews and other things that may interest Blender users and CG generalists in general. And yeah, until next time, see ya!